I've heard that fishermen are the most likely to encounter ghosts. This saying has been circulating in fishing circles for a long time, with every seasoned angler having one or two ghost stories about fishing at midnight. At first, I didn't take it seriously, until that night fishing experience made me reconsider these tales. It was a summer evening when a few friends and I decided to go night fishing at a reservoir in the countryside. The area around the reservoir was sparsely populated, with only a few scattered households. We had heard that the fish there were plentiful and large, so we eagerly packed all our gear, ready to make a big catch. Once we arrived at the reservoir, we found a relatively secluded spot and started setting up our fishing equipment. As night fell, moonlight shimmered on the water's surface, creating ripples of light. The reservoir's surroundings were eerily quiet, with only occasional frog croaks and the rustling of leaves in the breeze adding to the sense of mystery. We chatted and laughed as we cast our lines, waiting for the fish to bite. As time passed, the night grew deeper and the temperature dropped. Our catch was disappointing, with only a few small fish. My friends began to feel tired, and someone suggested that we rest and continue in the morning. Everyone found a comfortable spot and lay down to sleep, but I was determined to stay by my rod, thinking that perhaps the big fish would come out when it was quiet and late. Around 1 a.m., the surroundings were unusually silent, with only the sound of the wind through the treetops. Suddenly, I heard a faint noise. At first, I thought it was the wind, but upon closer listening, it sounded like a woman's crying, intermittent and ethereal, seeming both near and far. A chill ran down my spine as I looked around, but I saw nothing. I quickly told my friends about this discovery. They were half asleep, but my words woke them up. They listened intently, and sure enough, the crying came again, clearer this time. We exchanged nervous glances, fear evident in everyone's eyes. Could it really be a ghost? Someone whispered. We gathered our courage, grabbed flashlights, and decided to investigate. We followed the direction of the sound, moving cautiously. The shadows of the trees under the flashlight beams looked even more eerie. The crying sound continued, sometimes near, sometimes far, as if we were chasing a phantom. After walking for about 10 minutes, we reached an even more secluded area. The crying was now very clear. At that moment, our flashlight beams fell on a white object in a low bush. We carefully approached and found a tape recorder, playing the crying sound on a loop. We were all stunned, not expecting this at all. Just as we were at a loss, a person suddenly emerged from behind a nearby tree, startling us. It turned out to be the reservoir's caretaker. The caretaker saw our frightened expressions and burst out laughing. "You youngsters got scared, didn't you?" It turned out that the caretaker had set up this ghost crying recorder to scare off people trying to fish illegally at night. Seeing us fishing there, he had come over to check and witnessed our scare. The truth revealed, we couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity. We scolded the caretaker for going too far, but also felt relieved. That night fishing trip became a favorite topic of laughter at our future gatherings. As I returned home, I reflected on that night's experience. Although the outcome was laughable, it made me realize that some tales persist because there are seemingly reasonable explanations behind them. That night also instilled in me a newfound respect for night fishing, as nature's nights are always full of the unknown and the mysterious. This is a story my father told me. That fateful morning, he woke up just before dawn as usual, careful not to disturb us still dreaming. Quietly, he gathered his fishing gear, slung his backpack over his shoulder, and set off down the path to the lake. The morning dew was cool, and the occasional bird chirps from the bushes made everything seem so ordinary and beautiful. No one could have predicted that what was about to happen would change his view of the world forever. When he got to the lake, he picked a spot he thought was most likely to land a big catch. He expertly cast his line and then sat quietly on the shore, patiently waiting. Time passed slowly over the shimmering water, and apart from the occasional splash of a fish breaking the surface, the only sounds were his own breathing and heartbeat. Just as the peacefulness was making him drowsy, his fishing rod suddenly jerked violently, more forcefully than in any of his previous fishing experiences. He quickly yanked the rod, but it felt unusually heavy, filling him with an indescribable ecstasy. Did he have hooked the legendary big one? After a strenuous battle, he finally dragged his mysterious catch to the shore. But when he saw that it wasn't a huge fish, but a soaking wet burlap sack, his excitement turned to shock. The sack was heavy and emitted an ominous aura, and as the lake water dripped from it, A sense of nameless dread began to creep over him. After a moment of hesitation, my father mustered the courage to carefully untie the sack. In that instant, it felt like the air froze and time stood still. Inside the sack was a severely decomposed human corpse. His world shattered a little in that moment. Was terrified but had to stay calm because this was an unimaginable and unavoidable reality. My father knew that staying silent wasn't an option. He quickly took out his phone, his hands shaking, and dialed 911. While waiting for the police to arrive, he tried to keep the scene intact, his mind a mix of emotion for the deceased, and worry about the investigation that was sure to follow. The police arrived swiftly, cordoning off the area and starting their thorough investigation. As the only witness, my father explained how he discovered the sack, his voice trembling but his account clear, showing his inner strength and sense of responsibility. The police thanked him for his cooperation and promised to uncover the truth as soon as possible. On a gloomy autumn afternoon, I decided to go fishing alone at Black Forest Lake on the edge of our small town. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. I'd been curious about the mysteries beneath its calm surface for a long time. The lake had countless legends, from ancient water monsters to ghost ships appearing at night, each enough to give anyone the creeps. But, being a rational adult, I convinced myself these were just rural myths. When I got to the lake, the sky was already covered in heavy clouds, hinting at an approaching storm. It was eerily quiet, with only the sound of rustling leaves and the occasional caw of a crow in the distance. I found a relatively open spot, set up my fishing rod, and started my solitary adventure. As time went by, the sky grew darker, and the lake's surface started to ripple, like something was stirring below. I tried to focus on my fishing line, but the creepy atmosphere kept distracting me. Just when I was about to give up and pack my things, the fishing rod suddenly dipped, and an intense force pulled on the line. My heart raced, and adrenaline kicked in. This was clearly no ordinary fish. Gripping the rod tightly, I engaged in a silent struggle with the unseen creature below. Minutes later, a massive shadow slowly emerged from the water, and my rational mind nearly broke down. It was a creature like nothing I had ever seen. Its eyes glowed like burning coals, its skin shimmered with a strange silver light, and its body stretched several meters, far beyond any known fish. Terrified, I wanted to let go of the line and run, but the creature seemed almost intelligent, using its powerful body to entwine the line and pull me toward the lake. I fought with all my strength, but it felt futile. Just as I was about to be dragged into the cold water, a bolt of lightning split the sky, illuminating the entire lake. The creature suddenly released the line and vanished into the dark depths. I collapsed on the shore, panting and drenched, unsure if it was sweat or lake water. Reflecting on what had just happened, I realized I might have encountered something ancient and mysterious, and that this lake was far deeper than I'd imagined. As night fell, I finally gathered the courage to pack up my gear and stumbled away from that unsettling place. Back home, I tried to find information about Black Forest Lake online, hoping to uncover clues about the mysterious creature, but I found nothing but more unsolved mysteries and terrifying legends. That night, I lay in bed, tossing and turning, with the sound of the lake water and the creature's low hum echoing in my ears. Since then, I've never gone back to Black Forest Lake and have avoided talking about that experience, but I know that the secrets hidden beneath those waters will remain an unforgettable horror in my memory. Every time the night is silent, I can't help but think that maybe, in our world, many unknown and incredible things are quietly lurking in the darkness, waiting for the next unsuspecting explorer.